All right, welcome back to the Austin Moss Show. I am excited about the guests that we have on today. We got Miss Janine over here, and Janine and I we've connected through the finance world and commercial real estate financing and things of that sort. And I am super excited to bring you on. So, tell everyone a little bit, just kind of quick, what you do right now, and tell us a little bit about your shows that you have, and let's start there.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we were able to make this work. But my name is Janine Cascio. I'm the CEO of Simple Lending Financial. We also have a podcast ourselves called Simple Chat. I also run a podcast with my sister called Blissful Beings. And I'm currently in a book right now, writing a book about the empowerment of women, and just, manifesting all of our desires. But Simple Lending Financial is a business purpose financing solution for mainstream investors nationwide.
Love it. Love it. Love the finance world. I could talk to you all day about lending and capital
Yeah,
and all
it's
the
fun. It
craziness
is
in that
fun.
world. It is fun. It's a fun space to be in. It makes an impact. So, tell me a little bit about the shows. So let's dive into that. Tell me, what's the purpose of your show? I'm curious with the one with your sister.
Yeah. So blissful beings is really about creating more of those blissful moments and just knowing that we are creators of our own life, right? And it just centered around mindfulness and the power of now and bringing yourself back into grounding yourself and slowing down in this fast-paced environment and tips and tricks around that and ways to heal common disorders like anxiety and depression and a lot of those things that we just create gaps for ourselves and truly not happy exactly like where we are in our current reality. And to know that one of the tips is just, healing that and knowing that we are perfect and whole exactly how we are and accepting that. So a lot of tips and tricks on bringing yourself back to you.
I love it. I love it. So, did you learn a lot of that yourself? I mean, where did you learn some of these things? Because as an entrepreneur and just all the craziness of running a show
Mhm.
and being an entrepreneur and having teams and having employees and staff, like how do you balance that with all of the blissfulness and the mindfulness,
Yeah,
and
for
where do you
sure.
find the time and the energy and everything for all this?
I think why I am so passionate about it is because I need it, and I teach it to my employees around, conscious leadership and conscious employees and being mindful just because it's helped me so much. I feel like I've gone through a phase in my life when I was 29, so this is about 2 years ago. And some may call it like a spiritual awakening, but I truly had that perspective shift. And this is prior to, starting my company and going down the rabbit hole of doing these podcasts and wanting to share my message was really centered around the shift that I've had in my perspective of, truly having a wake up call, about, how I'm living my life and truly wanting to step into that and just coming from a place of I want to share my message and I want to give back and make a positive impact on the world. So now I'm able to do that by growing a company, creating jobs, starting a podcast, and truly sharing a message.
I love that. What do you do with your employees when it comes to the conscious
So it might be
mindfulness?
a little woo woo, but sometimes we'll do like meditation practices midday. I just recently got my certificate in yoga and meditation through a local studio called Soul Tribes nearby.
Hmm.
So a lot of times we'll have the teachers from there come into our office and they'll lead like sound baths and things like that. Just moments of pause, like throughout the day.
Hmm.
And it's actually scientifically backed that the average person could actually maximize their productivity levels for only a 4 hour like straight period. So it's actually going to make you more productive and give you more energy, taking that 15-20 minute pause throughout the day.
So you're saying there's scientific research? I've never heard that. So the scientific research says you have a 4 hour stint of
Yeah,
mindfulness
like
at a
after four
max.
hours, yeah, there's a straight like cap on your productivity levels. And your energy is just naturally going to fall off. But however, if you really take, that clear space, and in Jim Quick's book, he talks about like having just white space of like actually putting in your calendar 30 minutes of just white space, meaning you're not looking at emails, you're not having conversations with people, you're really just going back to yourself, and just creating that opportunity for yourself to re-energize yourself for the next half a day.
Interesting. Yeah, that's powerful. I haven't heard it said that way. I've heard it said, kind of break off,
Hmm.
maker time and meeting times, right?
Yeah.
And but I haven't heard that 4 hour. I could see it. I'd have to think through it myself, but um, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, because to just do some mindfulness meditation in the morning, which I uh, try to do every day. I don't do it every day. I need to do it every day. But even that, you get through that lull in the afternoon, and so that's a good point. Talking about on simple lending. So in the finance space, tell us a little bit about what you do within your vertical in real estate lending.
Yeah, so we are nationwide business purpose lenders. We will finance on fix and flips, DSCR loans, ground up construction, mostly aimed towards 1 to 10 units. But yeah, we're just providing capital to the mainstream investors and helping them grow their portfolios.
Love it. So who are your most common borrowers? Are they more investment funds, single kind of fix and flip remodelers, investors? What's the kind of split of that
Yeah,
audience?
I mean, I think we see a lot of first-time investors and first-time fix and flippers, but we also help, home builders. We recently just closed on 8 ground-up townhomes here in Houston, so we could do multiple deals at once, which is nice. But usually it's like the one-off, investor looking to start fix and flipping and just utilizing private lending to be able to do more volume throughout the year. So, I've seen people go from 2 or 3 flips a year, use our financing, and then they'll be able to complete, 5 or 6.
Gotcha. What do you see in that space? So I'm gonna pivot a little bit because I did fix and flips. I own single family rentals portfolio. So I've gone through kind of these different scenarios. But what do you suggest for somebody because I think what happens in that world, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I just experienced it myself. When I go to, when I was in my early 20s, I think, I had my own house and I was buying my first investment property. And so that first investment property was okay. Let's skid by to get. I didn't know about people like you or other lending solutions out there in my early 20s, and so I was going to went to the bank and
Hmm.
we went that route, and then I got a bank loan to purchase the property. But then I was like, oh shit, I have to spend this money to renovate it, right? And so I kind of skipped over some of those steps. So someone, that was like me falls into your world. What are you having me do if it's my first flip, versus I'm a remodeler and, I've done 100 projects and I'm going to start doing my own flips, right? What's kind of the difference in thinking between somebody just starting off and somebody who's kind of has the construction experience, but they don't have, quite necessarily they haven't done their own flip yet, but they
On the
have so
investor
you can have two
side.
different
Yeah.
people, right? And I can imagine
Mhm.
there's very big differences in that when it comes to working with you guys to obtain financing.
Yeah. So we actually just opened a program that we actually allow for ground GC experience now, even if they've worked on other people's homes. But we've typically like to see investors on the actual HUD and signing the docs and acting as the investor behind the loan. But unlike conventional financing, we don't look at debt to income ratios. We just care about the property itself, the collateral of the asset, and what that appreciation looks like after the rehab. So, we're going up from 90% of their purchase price, 100% of their rehab on these properties. So we can get very competitive. But if they are first-time investors, I do recommend they open that LLC and really get that going.
Why would
And
they want
just,
to do that on the LLC side?
um,
Is that like a requirement?
yeah, so it is a requirement for us because we are business purpose. So we actually only lend to LLC and corporations. But for liability reasons, if they are treating this like a true investment, it is actually better because then it won't tie into their personal, like a lot of our loans don't actually reflect on their personal credit scores and things like that. It'll be truly like investment property. And even if they hold on long term and put a tenant in place, it is important, right? Because those tenants, if they go to sue the owner and you own it under your personal names, they could come for anything under your personal liability. So liability reasons, it's actually better overall in general. So it's always safest, even I recommend per investment home that you open a new LLC. But it's going to just protect you overall. And then you're able to, even there's so many tax benefits for you treating that too as an investment.
Yeah, talk through that a little bit. Talk through that as a investor appeal is just, we talk about on the show too. We talk a wide array and spectrum of
Mhm.
different topics, mindfulness all the way to, trying to achieve a certain IRR on an investment, right? So you have a very
Mhm.
wide spectrum there, but talking in through people who are, they have a full-time job. A lot of people come into, the fix and flip space. They have a full-time job. I've seen it, right? And as funny as it is, I do a lot of similar stuff in your space from the lending side, and so, but I love that you have a big focus on that, right? So we spread ourselves so thin because we work in everything from 10,000 up to 250 million on that company.
Yeah,
So we're
that's
doing,
great.
credit facilities and all kinds of crazy stuff. So we're not as siloed and specialized in real estate as you are, but I've seen it, and I've seen some of the opportunities for people to kind of start tiptoeing outside of their day job that they may not like or may not see long term. So, how do you suggest for somebody who's exploring or seeing this and they're like, man, I've always wanted to do a flip or do a side hustle or an investment? Walk us through that process of what that looks like for somebody.
Yeah, I see it all the time, and those are some of my favorite people to work with are the people that, have the GC experience. They've done so many projects for other people, but they really want to create the financial freedom for themselves. I've helped interior designers, design and help other builders create beautiful homes, and they want to start doing it for themselves. Those are my favorite people to really help. And I've seen people leave their day job to become fix and flippers and renovate and sell homes. But yeah, just diving in, I would really recommend like just being in the industry. Like I can't say it enough, but you are what you surround yourself with. If you want to learn about the real estate industry, come to networking opportunities. We, as Simple Lending Financial, have a big community of hosting all different types of events. Even as a first-time investor, you could come into a happy hour and potentially meet like a business partner, and then you're wanting to do flips together. I've seen it all happen, and I have someone right now looking to do his first ground up, and he met the GC that's going to do his ground up at my happy hour. So I truly recommend just like going into networking events, industries, meeting as many people, ask the questions, be curious, run some comps in the area. So what we look for is any, properties that have the same kind of subject, like with beds and bath and square footage, and recently sold in the last 12 months and up to a 10-mile radius. So you could look at homes, simply go on realtor.com, and see what, homes been sold in the last 12 months, kind of see what you think that house will be worth. Even as your capital provider, we will run the numbers for you and make sure that it's a profitable deal. Profitable meaning that you're making a 15% margin off of that flip with the after repair value. So we will actually help you, guide you, and make sure that flip's going to be profitable for you. But like I said, I really just can't say it enough. Just get out there and start meeting people and having those conversations.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I wanted to dive a little more into the fix and flip still, because I've have 10 years of experience in that as a investor and flipper, and
Yeah.
I just think there's so much to learn in that space, that can really move the needle for people, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
when I looked at, I think a lot of it's the analytics. Where do people go wrong? I think is another good way to go on this is, because you can really mess yourself up.
Yeah.
When you can get it, if you don't know what you're doing and you're going into a property, I've had, I don't want to scare people away from it. It's just
Of
things
course.
that,
It's just
you
the
have
more they know, the better, too.
yeah, there's things that you have
Mm-hmm.
to think about, right? I mean, you go in. So when I would look at a property, I was doing a little different, right? I wasn't flipping them; I was holding them for my own portfolio.
Nice.
And so with that, my strategy was go in, get the financing, a bridge loan, kind of similar to what you do. Get the property as quickly as we can, fully renovated. My
Mm-hmm.
concept was full renovation, purchase off market cheap, full renovation, achieve after renovation a 1% rent, right? So that kind of that
Mm-hmm.
1% number. And so I guess you could do that same thing in the flipping world, right? So there's a
Yeah.
partner, actually, his name's Mark De La Tour, here in Kansas City. So he runs property management, but they also do turnkey flips, right?
Nice.
So you go in, they have a whole team that vets all these. They used to get them at the courthouse steps, right? And the problem there is that's kind of gone away. For
Mm-hmm.
the most, at least in Kansas City, it has because there's so little inventory, right? So finding those deals, is a little harder now, right? But I think it allows for some other seller financing and some different creative type of things there, from a long term hold standpoint. But yeah, so I want to dive in a little more into the mindfulness, right? Because we get into the nitty gritty tactics, strategies of business, and you can do all that, but it's all kind of meaningless in my mind long term because I've done that myself, right? I spent 10, 15 years, really grinding and hustling and focusing on the
Mm-hmm.
business and the hiring and scaling and marketing and all the busyness of running a company. And I let go, for a long time of working on myself and my mindfulness and things that like I knew were important earlier on in my career, and then you get busy and you get distracted from that. So, so in that thinking, what do you suggest for people that are in that busy? Because I think a lot of people, if they get the chance to slow down enough to even to just catch a glimpse of this or a reel or a
Mm-hmm.
clip from here, is how do you force yourself? I know you mentioned the 30 minutes of white space. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I'm talking to my assistant. And I was like, hey, we need to implement that for me because,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. You get halfway through the day and you just need a break to like rehone yourself in and just, have emptiness, right? And not your phone, not catching up on text, not, going checking social media, just actual like, and it's even 5 minutes. Like I've noticed coaching and mentoring people, and even for myself, is even just taking 5 minutes of just dead silence. You're
Mm-hmm.
so like if you actually do it and you sit in that for 5 minutes, you don't get that. Like you think in your mind that like, oh, I'm taking breaks all the time throughout the day, but you're really not, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
really not. There's always something taking up your brain space of something that's coming up or something you just did or something you have to be doing. And it's how do you sit there in silence, but then calm down all the thoughts? Because I think it's still, I mean, you might as well be doing something, right? If you're still so absorbed and so chaotic in your mind for those 5 or 30 minutes, how can you, what do you suggest to people to help them in that time? What do they do in that 30-minute white space? What do
Yeah,
you
for
suggest?
sure. So a little tip of what I do is actually remove myself from the office. I have a little park down the block that I like to go to. So creating that space for yourself. And it's all about creating that time and scheduling that time in your calendar. But there is simple breathing exercises. So when people are having these thoughts and to kind of bring yourself back to center, I do recommend deep breathing and focusing on your breath. Because that will kind of bring you inward and like closing your eyes, relaxing, taking those deep breaths. And then there's different exercises like breathing that is pretty much 4 second inhale, 4 second exhale, and a 4 second hold. And then that's making you count. So that actually helps you kind of repeat the box and keep you focused on your breath. So it's all just about bringing yourself back inward and not being attached to thoughts. And to know that those thoughts are going to come up and it's okay. And just giving yourself grace for that and then coming back to your breath. So it's just a repetition and just humans habitually, we need that repetition. So meditation, luckily, is something you could practice and get better at. And, you might be able to do 5 minutes today, but tomorrow you could do 7 minutes. So just knowing that it's okay that if your mind wanders, to just come back to your breath.
Yeah. Yeah, I got started some meditation myself, and I'm learning it. And yeah, I
That's
think
great.
different people have it different ways. Mine is
Yeah, for sure.
it does get better. It does get better as
Mhm.
you it's like a practice, right? I mean, it's something you got to work on and, explore and research and try different things and figure out what works for you, because that's something I
Yeah,
figured out too, is what works for you, right? Like some
100%.
Wim-
Yeah.
some Wim
It's
Hof
all about what works for you. My one friend
I
likes to go driving, so it could be meditation could be in so many different forms. It's just like what works for you, like you
yeah.
said.
Yeah, it was funny. I've seen a wide spectrum of this. So, a business partner of mine in Miami, um, super regimented routine in the mornings. He's very mindful, but his morning routine. I was in Miami with him on a trip, and it was 5 a.m. wake up. We go hit a mile down, mile back on the beach, sit
Nice.
on the beach and do a Wim Hof, very aggressive. Like, so this guy's sober. And so he had all kinds of drugs and alcohol problems and stuff, was homeless in New York, basically drug dealer. Right. And now he's very successful, lives in a penthouse in
Love
Miami,
that story.
cleaned his life up, everything. And so when I see somebody make those changes and I see, overnight almost in my mind, but it's really had for him, it was a
Mhm.
couple of years, but that you don't see all that behind the scenes work that he does. But seeing him where he is now, I'm like, man, you got to build yourself up to that. And that works for him though. Like the Wim Hof 20-minute rapid
Mhm.
breathing, like manipulating your
Mhm.
breathing, it almost gets you high, to be
Yeah,
honest with you. It gets you this feeling of high doing the Wim Hof, but it's very aggressive, right? Too. So
yeah.
there's also, I'm a little more in the middle ground,
Mhm.
to not get too heightened. But there's all different things to explore with it. And I
Yeah,
love that, people are not shying away from it and realizing that mental health has a huge impact on health, business, happiness, relationships, everything. And this world is just going to get more chaotic. And it's just, I saw it for myself. I hit a wall and I just had to do something different. And
yeah,
meditation and mindfulness and therapy and all these different things, just adding them in as a routine is has been a game changer, right? Everything
Mhm.
else just kind of falls in line. When I would try to focus on other things, it never worked out. But when I came and focused on myself and getting myself better in certain areas, then everything just kind of falls in line. And it's contradictory,
Definitely.
but it works. So, yeah. So, so I'm curious more on like what made you, what happened, what kind of happened around your surroundings to make you make these shifts? Because you made a pretty big shift
Yeah.
in multiple facets. So, what triggered that, and what helped you the most? Like, where did you go to for resources and help for that?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was 29, as I mentioned, felt like I went through like a big perspective change. But leading up to that, I originally moved to Houston because I was dating someone. We lived between Houston and Vail. Maybe from the outside people would say I had like the perfect life. His house in Vail was probably like a 7, $8 million home. We were constantly traveling, but something within myself and my soul was just like, this isn't for me. Like, yes, it might be other women's dreams to be in this lifestyle, but it wasn't for me. Like, I knew that I was meant for something more. And he kind of had a controlling aspect. Like, he didn't like when I, was trying to start my own company or do my own thing. And we actually took a turn and broke up. And I went through a phase of just depression, of just not knowing who I was, and kind of, just going to therapy and working through that. I luckily just had like this breakthrough that was like, I can really just choose what I want to do. And if that's to, make an impact or share, just how giving to yourself and can really truly change your life. Like, it really does. And I just kept pouring into myself. I started doing yoga. I went down that journey, diving into energy, and carrying, the right energy. And that's why I do a lot of these exercises, is to just know that, life is just a bunch of moments, and you always want to be in check of your energy. But yeah, for me, it just was a massive perspective change. And like, I'm so grateful. I wouldn't change anything of my past because it's led me to exactly where I'm at now. So, having love and forgiveness and being able to spread that, just off of everything that's happened to your life. And that's one of my tips and tricks too, is that even when things go wrong in your life, to stop and pause and like, be like, thank you. And like, what is this doing for me to help me grow? Because I essentially have this belief that we are on, planet Earth to grow and evolve. And, that's what we're meant to do, is just constantly spiritually evolve, as, human beings and as a consciousness. So like, how anything in your life, of how it shapes you, even when the bad comes, of, not to go back to your mom having breast cancer, but like, what has that taught you? And like, what has that, I'm sure she's grown from it and you've grown from it. So almost being thankful and giving the thankfulness to that, and how you can evolve from it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there was a lot in there that I was
I know,
thinking.
sorry, that was a
Uh
rant.
no, no, I appreciate it. It's great. Man, yeah, like three things popped in my head from that. Literally within the last 24 hours. Like yesterday, it was actually a Gary Vaynerchuk podcast I was listening to, and he talked about your partners, right? You
Mhm.
mentioned something about that and being unfulfilled and unhappy, even though you thought on the external you had everything you thought
Yes.
you ever wanted in life, right? And I've seen people that have a lot of money and have all the things and
Mhm.
are miserable. I've seen
Yeah.
people also with nothing and are miserable. I've seen people with nothing that are so joyous and happy and free of all the bullshit that they're just happy, right? And they don't have all the things. And so for me, I've had things and stuff, and it doesn't make me happy, right? Making an impact, knowing that have a purpose, and knowing that I'm doing
Yes.
things that make a difference. That's the most fulfilling
Creating
thing for me.
jobs. That's one of my
Yeah,
favorite. Yeah.
yeah. And so, but back to the partner thing is, he said, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, if you have a partner who, you're not going to support each other's everything, right? You're your own person, you have your own thoughts and beliefs and everything, but your partner does have these ambitions or things that they truly care about, and those top
Hmm.
one, two, three things. And if your partner either is too egotistical that they're afraid that you're gonna lose them, and an insecurity. I think it comes around to a lot of insecurity, right? If you're so insecure that you can't support them because it may put them in a different level, or it may eventually lead to something that may take them away from you or the fear
Yes.
inside of you, but it's just it's fear, right? It's all false, just facades, right? And so, but for yourself, I'm so proud of you for doing that. Like that's awesome because I know, you know, the happiness that can come from, you know, taking the time to reorg your life and rethink about your future and think about where you are spending your time and is that really what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I think everyone
Mhm.
comes to those pivot points or those inflection points in life and business where they have to make these drastic changes because it's not something you can just slow. I mean, you could maybe do it slowly over time, but there's a point there, I think, for most people where you got to make a prioritized effort to fix things drastically, right?
Yes.
And get on a new path. And anyone can do it, right? And
Mhm.
it can completely change your life. It will it to everyone else it will seem like overnight, and that's the hard part, right? To everyone else
Mhm.
it seems like it's overnight and they don't see the work over a year, 2, 3 years, but it takes some of that times. Like for me, it's I'm still working on things, but the
Of
biggest
course.
change is
Always.
it's still
Yeah.
like big changes from things that I could control 100% on things that I would work on myself. It's still like I'm still working on it, but it took me like a year to
Mhm.
get to get a good chunk, to get a
Yeah.
good enough chunk of things working on myself to actually see the benefits, right? And so, you know, I think a lot of misconceptions is you get into yoga or meditation and you're like, oh, I should be fixed, right? Or I should
Mhm.
see a difference. And you probably won't for the
Yeah.
first, you know, few weeks until you really get into it. So, um, yeah, I'm glad you said what you said there because there, yeah,
Yeah,
there's
for
so much
sure.
stuff with
And to
that.
all
And
the ladies watching, like it is way better to be the rich man than to date the rich man. It's just more
yes,
satisfying. So if that's what you're wanting is like that rich life, just give it to yourself because you're able to.
and it's a journey. Like you
It
don't
is.
want like
I felt like
I mean
just
you can
placed in someone else's dream. Like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't fulfilling for me. I didn't feel like I like earned it. Like I was just like there and it was like their dream, their home. Like now I own, you know, two homes myself. I have my company that I'm able to share my unique expression. Like we're all meant to like share ourselves and you'll find the right partner. And it's so much more satisfying when you align with someone off of true values rather than external stuff.
yeah, yeah, the Instagram thirst trap. Uh
Hmm.
so you're also writing a book, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. What tell me about that? That's interesting.
Yes, so it's called She Thinks, She Believes, She Acts, and She Receives. So I kind of am really breaking down the four steps of what I truly believe to be the four steps to manifesting your desires. So you know, it's about that power of thought, feeding the positive dog, and then having the belief behind that positivity, and having that just unwavering faith in what your positive thoughts are. So if it's, you know, I want to be successful, like I am successful, and kind of really having that belief around it. And then it's taking the massive action steps to, you know, really go after those desires. And when it comes to just receiving, it's that openness and receiving and just being open to your desires because I truly believe there's a lot of people that are able to take the action steps, do the belief, but then they're not open to, hey, you know, the perfect man's right there. Hey, the job opportunity's right there. And they just aren't open to it. So I think there is a true art to receiving your desires when they come up. And yeah, it's been fun to kind of just lay down all of, you know, what I feel like I've helped me achieve desires in my life and share that with the world.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So when's the book coming out?
Hopefully within the next 6 months. So I have already have my editor picked out, and she's been helping me go throughout the book. And but yeah, hopefully within the 6 months it'll be out to the world.
I love the title. I'm going to read it, even though it's to she.
Yeah, I hope a lot of guys read it, even though it's she. But it is a lot about me and my journey in my life over the last 2 years, so that's why it's titled that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So what do you think, what are you wanting people to get out of this, reading this book when it comes out?
Yeah, I just want it to be kind of like that entrepreneur handbook, right? Of anyone else kind of taking that step and walking into the unknown and being an entrepreneur themselves that they could kind of just go back to and remind themselves, like, when those self doubts come in, just to know that you are not those thoughts, right? You are, guided for a higher purpose. And there's so much positivity around starting your own company and going down that path. And just to, even if it's not being an entrepreneur, just doing something that might scare you. I'm someone who was very scared of like public speaking, and here I am like on 2 podcast platforms trying to get on all these other podcasts, like speaking at a conference next week. So I'm not saying that these negative thoughts kind of go away. There's just ways to conquer them. So I
Mhm.
truly hope that it helps people step into their unique ability and to share their message and to know that they're worthy of that as well.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's leave everyone with one last thing here. So, I'm excited for the book to come out. Please send me the pre-sale on it,
Yeah,
and I will
for
get
sure.
one or two or three or five. I love getting books and giving them to people, especially if I get it and it made an impact on me. I just, that's me giving away, is giving
Hmm.
out, books that have made an impact
Yes,
on me.
I
It's
love
kind of a
that too.
little thing that I do. Um, but if you were to leave something with everybody, um, you know, a woman out there that's kind of in your spot right now, or when you were in your 20s, right? And you're trying to figure life out, you're trying to figure out what you want to do. You just kind of fell into the realm of, what everyone else does, and now you've started to ground yourself, you started to have more belief in yourself, but you like, I am built and made for something bigger than what I'm doing. What would you say to that person listening to this?
I would say take the leap of faith and have that unwavering belief in yourself and just be laser focused on the clarity of your goals and to just know what you want. Because I'm not like a religious person, but I talk about like the universe and the divine. The universe will literally give you what you ask for if you act in full faith of what your desires are. So if it's, starting a new job, like you're able to manifest that by journaling, writing it down, having true belief in it. Affirmations are a big thing that I utilize. The power of I am is very powerful. So, just speaking it into existence is a real thing. And just, yeah, acting like, a boss and moving as a boss and being very confident.
I love that. So I'll leave one last thing I do. So my mirror is full. I can barely see
Love
myself because I
that.
have
Yeah, that's a good technique.
affirmations, I have goals on there and all this stuff. So it's like, and women, you may need to fill up the rest of your mirror and make a little circle for yourself. But because I know how you are, you got to spend the time in front of the mirror. You got to do that. You got to get
Yeah.
yourself together. But it is a good way to, you're going to be there every day. The other stuff is great too, but if you just had these, I am powerful,
Hmm.
I am whatever I
It's
want,
a David Goggins
you know
thing.
yeah.
David Goggins talks about that in his book, Can't Hurt Me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
talks about it, the power of the affirmations on the
They're
mirror.
huge.
Love that.
They're huge. Try it out, see if it works, prove me
Yes.
wrong. Prove Janine wrong. But how can everyone connect with you after here? We're going to put some stuff in the show notes and some of your social stuff, but any one place that you want people to connect with you on?
Yeah, perfect. I'm very active on LinkedIn, just Janine Cascio. I'm also on Instagram, pretty much all of the social media platforms, but LinkedIn, I pretty much message back everyone that reaches out.
Okay, that's good. That's good, and you're not a bot, so that's great.
Yes,
And so
not
we'll put your 2 shows in the show notes too. So check those out.
perfect.
And yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and
Thank you,
I'd love to get you on
Austin.
again more once the book is out. And yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Have a good one.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.